Welcome to Beauty of Colors podcast, hosted by Cleanne Johnson, where the talk is about loving self, the power of I am, and getting out of the box. Also being yourself and helping others find themselves along their journey in life. She's going to delve into the books featuring these subjects and more. So join Cleanne Johnson as she dives into these life-changing topics.
So welcome to Beauty of Colors podcast, Thea. It's great to have you on the show.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
So Thea, tell the listeners about you and what was the driving force of you becoming an author and writing romantic novels?
Well, I guess that would be two parts. The first part is I've always liked writing, but I wasn't committed to it. When I was a kid, I would write little stories, and even I would imagine characters in my head and I would be those characters, and I'd think, okay, well, in this scene, her brother is going to do X, and how would I respond to it? So I would be constantly, It was more than just daydreaming. I don't think people necessarily daydream about the same scene over and over and changing words or, or changing, how the characters are approaching things. So I think I was a writer way back when, but I was always afraid of really going for it because inevitably you get judged and, I'm scared of negative judge. I mean, as everybody is, but some people are a little more shy about it, and that's me. In high school, I did an expository writing class, and my teacher said something to the effect of, "You have a lot of talent, so what are you going to do with it?" And what did I do? I promptly kind of sealed off that kind of thing. In college, other than doing writing in classes, I only wrote maybe 2 pieces for the school newspaper. Later on, though, I kept, after college, I kept wanting to go back to writing. So I would take classes at community colleges and then online. There's some really good classes online, like Gotham, if you ever your listeners are ever interested. The problem with that was I kept taking classes. I kept really writing. I had these stories, but I kept going, oh, I need more lessons. And there's nothing wrong with that. I believe in learning. I don't think everything can be just jump into it, but I was doing it to avoid. So finally, have you ever heard of NaNoWriMo, Cleanne?
No, I've never heard of it.
Okay, I'll tell you, a lot of people haven't, but it's really interesting. And interesting, I think your listeners, if any of them are interested, they might want to start doing that in November. It's called National Novel Writing Month. It's the month of November, and you can look up NaNoWriMo.com.org, I'm not sure, and participate. You can tell the world, I'm going to write a story or, a novel about X. And you have 30 days, the month of November is 30 days long to write 50,000 words.
That's a challenge.
It's a big challenge. I think that comes to 1,667 words a day. And some people just write maybe 2 days a week. Some people do every night. And I kept trying it and I kept failing. And one day I said to myself, I don't care. I'm going to get this story done, even if I don't make it through NaNoWriMo. And I didn't get it done in 30 days. I didn't get it done by the end of that year. I didn't get it done by June, but by September of that next year, I had done it. It was like pulling teeth. A lot of my writing, I feel like I'm I'm struggling to get the words. I think because I'm kind of a perfectionist, I want it to be, I edit while I'm writing, which is also they consider a no-no, which is why NaNoWriMo does it, because they want people to feel, just get it down on the page. It doesn't matter if it's cruddy. There's a famous author that said, I can work with, a bad first draft. I can't work with a blank sheet of paper. You know what I mean? So that really helped me, and it gave me the confidence to do another story, which was my first book I self-published, called Food Fight. That's part of the Mouth-watering series. And the reason I did romance, I do, it's romance, contemporary, but more romantic comedy. I think I need the laughs. I need to have a happy ending. That's what, there always has to be a happy ending in romance. But it wasn't just that, it was needing to have a distraction, and humor for things going on with my life. At that time, my dad diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and he's since passed, but it was very hard for both my mother and I. And right now, my mother is 90 and she doesn't have Alzheimer's, but she's very weak, and I'm her main caregiver. So, I look forward to having a laugh, being silly, and having a happy ending.
Okay. So how did these romantic novels inspire you through difficult times?
Well, as I said, having a book there to, like I said, laugh, and actually, yes, the characters are characters. They're not real people, but as anyone who, and I'm sure as you're a writer and probably a great reader, we love, these people become your friends. It's a very strange thing, isn't it, to have these descriptions on a piece of paper, little typewritten beings, but they become important to you. And so when I was dealing with my dad's illness, I would go read all these books. At the beginning, I have to admit, I was negative about romance novels. I had read one, and it was so, the virgin, shy, retiring, and it was silly. I mean, it was just really bad. And this was written by a woman who was like the top romance writer for decades, right? And so I always had a negative feeling about it. But what happened was I read actually chick lit, which is kind of in the romance vein, romantic comedy vein. I read Bridget Jones's Diary.
Oh, that's
and then saw the movie, and they're very different, but I enjoyed both of them. So I started looking at other chick lit books, and I noticed, wow, these characters are really interesting. There are funny, bits in it. There are sometimes very sad bits, but things that we've all experienced. So I wanted to write something like that, and that's how I got into romance.
So let's talk a little bit about self-doubt. How did you overcome self-doubt and imposter syndrome?
Well, I still have self-doubt, but I think that's a thing. I don't think you can just defeat it in one fell swoop. I think it's a day-to-day thing. You just have to accept that there are times you're not going to feel as good about yourself. And as a matter of fact, one of my books in the mouth-watering series called Perfect Pairing, it's about a fat acceptance blogger. And she really believes that she totally accepts her heavy body, and and everyone else should, because hey, I do, why can't, why shouldn't you? But we learn in the story later that there are a lot of parts that she doesn't, that have stemmed from childhood, not things like how her parents react to her heavy weight, how her brother and sister do. And so if you have that from a young age, you've had a lot of negative reinforcing. So I think you just have to take it one day at a time and accept, hey, I'm okay with this weight, with this writing, with my opinions. I think nowadays the danger in, I'm sure it's the whole world society, is that if you give your opinion, even honestly, even if it's something maybe some people don't like, they rush to what do they call it? Cancel you,
Yeah.
which is so sad. I mean, how are we going? If you keep canceling people, making them afraid, doubting their own, say, opinions. I mean, we all know there are plenty of jerks out there putting their opinions out, but they're not the self-doubters, right? And if we keep doing that, though, we're going to narrow opinions so much that what is the next generation going to be like? Are they going to almost be like automatons and always going, yes, we must do this, I think that can be a real danger. How are we going? The other reason is, how are we going to go forward as a society if we don't listen to unpopular opinions? And I can't remember what it was, but I was listening to NPR this morning, and this gentleman was on, and he said something. I'm like, and I still don't agree with him, but I figured give myself a clap on the back to at least try to listen to his point of view. It doesn't always work, because I'm always right, but I think we have to let people speak, let them go forward without having too many doubts. I mean, there are always negatives. We've all heard horrible things online, and how do you even think that way? But I think the good outweighs the bad in that, even though it feels like it's the bad always coming out in social media, unfortunately.
So let's talk a little bit about your books. How many books do you have, and are they different series, or are they just, how many do you have published? How many books have you?
Right now, I published 5. The first 4 are part of a series. They're standalones, though. You can read, book 3 if and not lose anything from different couples. And it's called the Mouth-Watering series. So it's all related to the food industry. Book 1, the 2 main characters are chefs who are competing. They're the best ones, the best competitors in the reality food competition, and they've known each other since high school, and doesn't like him. And so it goes from that being chefs to book 2. There's a chef and an artist. Book 3, there's a pastry chef and a businessman. And book 4, the fat acceptance blogger and personal trainer / gym owner. And so you can imagine how he would be very opposed to her not trying to be as fit as possible. And what I liked about that book, and I suppose I'm giving, well, everyone knows it's going to have a happy ending, so they'll get together. But at the end, even though, and he says to her, I still don't like the fact that you're, I still worry about you from health from a health perspective, because it's really about health for him. Even with himself, he gets hurt, and he isn't as strong as he used to be, and it makes him feel nervous that he's losing his good health because of that. So he tells her straight up, I might say something at times, but I love you and I accept you. I just worry about, the health aspects. And I wanted to do that because I didn't want her to, have to lose weight to make him happy. And I didn't want him to be fake and go, oh, I totally accept you now. He accepts her, but he did, he says there'll be times I might say something. But I thought that was far more realistic than a lot of other books. So, and then my last book that just was published, it's not part of this series. It's called His Blue Collar Countess. And it's about a blue collar woman, works at a Costco-like store, who, along with her fellow employees, win a huge lottery, not as big as those $1 billion ones, but, and she's always wanted to study history, and her favorite channel is like a history channel. And there's a handsome aristocrat who's also a historian, and he has just become an earl. His older brother passes. He gets the earldom, but he also gets the estate, which is in big trouble financially. He needs money. She's willing, if he'll give her some teaching, give her some contacts with other people in his historian kind of things, she'll give him some money for his estate if he'll marry her and then do these things, and he thinks she's a Downton Abbey wannabe, but he agrees, and it starts off rocky, but then they fall in love, and there's a happy ending eventually. And I should tell you, both His Blue Collar Countess and book 1 of the mouthwatering series, Food Fight, the one with the 2 chefs on the reality cooking competition.
In the first 4 books, the first series that you have, the main character, is it the same throughout all 4 of the books, or
no? The main characters switch. So in book 2, my book 1's main character has a best friend. She's the main character in book 2. Book 3, the man's assistant chef is the heroine in book 3. It's etc. So they make little appearances in the previous books, but you don't need to read those other books if you're you're not interested. I always like books, I like having a connection, but I prefer not being so dependent. Oh, what does this mean? Do I need to go find book 1 and try to explore what the author was talking about? So it is standalone, which I think is good, but there are these connections, and people come in and out, make appearances in other books. So
okay. So Thea, you said that you have a book promotion, a free promotion on Amazon right now.
Yeah, for the next, I believe it's till Friday or Saturday. Both book 1 of the mouthwatering series, book 1 is called Food Fight. That one is free. And the new book, which isn't part of a series, it's just totally standalone.
So apart from Amazon, where else can the listeners get a copy of your book? Is it at Barnes and Noble? Or
no, we're still just on Amazon, and also not just Amazon for purchase. I mean, obviously, if people want, let's say they liked book 1 and they want to get book 2, that won't be free of charge, but they can, if they like Kindle Unlimited, where you kind of, it's kind of a library where you sort of rent the book for a little bit and you can read it that way too. So one day I hope to go to other sites like Barnes and Noble and such, but got to start somewhere first.
So do you have any last words for the listeners about embracing their journey?
As I said, I'm a very shy and wary person, but I notice the more you actually do, the more confidence you have. I was thinking about it, with this NaNoWriMo. After a while, even though it was still hard for me to get the words on the page, and I wasn't successful in that 30 days with the first book, but I have done other books. I think I've won NaNoWriMo for, they call it winning, but there's nothing, you just get to say, hey, I did it. But the more you do, the easier it becomes and the less scared you are. You just have to do. I was, when I first started in my career, in admin and customer service, when that door opened and people wanted, help with X, Y, or Z, I would get up from my desk and come out and say, oh God, do I have to talk to them? But you do it over and over again, and you toughen up. And I think that's the way you have to do things to really become confident. I think you just have to deal with it. I heard, I don't know the name of the gentleman, but there's a site where people try to help one get more confident about things. And their phrase, and I'm sorry, I don't remember who they are, but maybe your listeners can write it online, see if they'll connect to them. They believe in the phrase seek discomfort. Because the more time, and that's really true. I mean, that the things that I've been successful on have been because I was really uncomfortable and I had to go through it. And I always want to cheat and ask somebody else for help. But it doesn't always work, it doesn't help you in the long run. So I got to remind myself of that. Quit asking for, like computers, quit asking my nephew for help. I got to do it myself.
Sounds good, Thea. Well, thank you for being on Beauty of Colors podcast.
Thank you for letting me talk so much. It was a pleasure meeting with you, and this was fun.
Great.
Thank you for listening to Beauty of Colors podcast. We hope you enjoyed the program, and for more information, be sure to visit www.cleannejohnson.com.